So I figured we would probably start with the base. And the base is made up of these pieces here. First thing we want to do is take these long strips here. I'm going to move this out of the way for a second. And we want to connect these long strips together. And I'm going to actually go ahead and fold all of these teeth first, just to get those all scored. And once we've done that, I'm just going to do it with this piece here. And then this piece as well. You want to kind of do this because it's going to help you with the overall alignment of these pieces. If you happen to align these a little too tight, it might make it a little bit more difficult for you to put the rest of the pieces together. So you want to make sure that you get this just right. I mean, either way it's going to work. Depending on how well this is aligned is going to determine how tight the actual base is. So my suggestion is to, and I'll show you here, go ahead and put glue on this piece. And again, you want to make sure that you get it out to the edge there. And do your best to get that aligned. You don't want to encroach on the score line too much. You want to kind of, so that you still see the score line a little bit. That little millimeter or whatever actually does make a little bit of a difference. Not huge, but enough to where you'll notice as you're putting the actual base together, it may maybe a little tight. So go ahead and make sure that you don't encroach too much on that vertical score line there. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing with the rest of these strips until we form a nice round wall for our base. And we've made it so that you really can't do this wrong. We've added a few liner pieces that help get this thing perfectly aligned. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put glue on that tab there. And again, just make sure that you don't go over that score line, that vertical score line there. Give it a little bit of room behind it. Okay. All right. And just hold that in place until it holds. Okay. And then the last one here. And then we're going to go ahead and join it on the other end. Now don't worry too much about the fact that it's bent like that. Once we get the liner and the rest of the pieces in, it's going to have a nice round shape to it. Unfortunately, they don't make paper this big, so we had to break this down into 4 segments. And we figured if you're going to go through all this effort to create a magical piece like this, you may as well at least get 8 cupcakes in there. I know that the majority of the grocery stores, I think they do the cupcakes in 8. I just bought a batch of cupcakes. I believe it came in 12. So if you get a batch of 12, if you have a dozen kids coming, you can put 8 in here and then surround the rest of it with the other 4. If you don't use the light in the center, you can fit 9 in there. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to grab this piece and we're going to tuck it inside, in between the teeth. Okay, so we're just going to have to get it in there. And what we're going to do is we're going to glue it to one set of the tabs. And what I'm going to suggest is that whichever side you glue this to, that's going to be your top, because this is the side that's going to give us the most control. It's the side that's going to look the best. Okay, so you see how nicely that fits. Okay, so what we're going to do, make sure that you've got all those teeth above that piece. Okay, and I want to start with just like 2 of them. Okay, so I've got my little tooth up here. I'm just going to put a little drop of glue right there and a little drop of glue right there. Okay, and I'm actually going to flip this over and I'm going to push down from the inside and push in from the outside, And let's just start by anchoring those 2 points first, okay? So it's just gonna give us a good start to the rest of this. And then what I did was I kind of put it up like this on its side, and I would then take, I don't know, I have 7 triangles here. I'm just putting little dots on the triangles. Okay, then I put it back down, and I'm just working my way around. Try to get that up against that edge as best as you can. Okay, and we'll pop down, say, I don't know, 7 more, or you can do more if you feel comfortable, whatever you feel comfortable with. And just pop it back down. And push in from the outside, down from the inside. And just get all those tabs in place. Just like that. Okay, looking good. Push down some more. And as you can see here, this is pretty repetitive, this process. So go ahead and continue doing this until you get to the end and have all of those tabs glued into place. And I will meet you at the next step. Okay, so I'm getting kind of close to the end here, and I'm noticing that I did slightly, well, I kind of didn't glue the wall. I didn't give it enough room as far as connecting these. And it's a little tight in here, but that's okay because we do want some resistance in there. It's gonna help really give this thing a nice round shape. So my suggestion is if you're noticing that it's a little too tight, that's okay. Go ahead and get pretty much all these glued down except for like 3. Okay, and then I'll show you what we can do here to remedy that. And it's not a problem at all. So just focus on getting as many as you can glued down. And then I'll show you what we can do here. Because paper is very malleable, and just because we have a little bit of an excess on this piece here, it's not so bad. Okay, so I have about 5 pieces left here, 5 of these little teeth, and I'm gonna go ahead and put glue on these tabs here, and just kind of push in from both sides until you meet in the middle, and then just scrunch it down. Scrunch it down real good and kind of flatten that paper out. It's going to overlap on itself slightly. That's totally fine. Because no one's going to see this piece. It's just to kind of help form the structure, and there you go. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the liner in. Okay, so that's going to go inside this piece here. Okay, and that's just going to help make our base even sturdier. And it's going to help form the bottom of our base. So look for the one that has the little L cut into it, right there on the side. And just stick that inside. Make sure the teeth are out. Okay, it should fit pretty much perfectly in there. Okay, and then you can do it the same way that we did it the first time, where you kind of put it on its side. Again, just make sure all those teeth are out. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and put glue on just maybe 2 of them, just to kind of get it started. And push from the inside, push down from the inside, out, or in from the outside, just to kind of push it up against that piece of paper there. Okay, get those first 2 to hold, and then work your way around. Now with this, you can get a little sloppy here if you need to save time or whatever, because no one's going to see this. We're going to cover this up with 1 more piece to make it really sturdy. Okay, so I put glue on, I don't know, about 10 of them, and then I'm just going to run my finger in there to push it down. Okay, there we go. And flip out some more of these and just dot, dot, dot. Do as many as you can before the glue starts to set. Push it down on your table. Just run your finger in there to get that to really hold. Okay, and just keep on working your way around the wheel. It starts to go pretty quick once you get into a rhythm. Again, as I mentioned earlier in the video, it's just kind of repetitive. Nothing very difficult about any of this. I think you can pretty much, as long as you follow my video, I think anybody can do this. I wouldn't really say this is all that hard. Okay, so that's coming together nicely. And just make sure that these teeth are all in there, or on the outside, I should say. Okay, and keep on going here. So dot, dot, dot on each of these teeth. And just keep working your way around. Okay, I got one that okay, and I'm going to go ahead and just put glue on the rest of these. Okay. And I'm just going to push that in there. There we go. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, pretty much got them all except for one. So I'm just going to touch that one up. Just make sure that it sticks. Okay, and at this point, can decide what you want to do. It looks like I have a couple more here that I need to touch up, so it's a lot of little teeth. You gotta maybe just give them a little extra TLC, but they will eventually all grip. You'll have a nice solid platform for your spaceship. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put the bottom on. Okay, so depending on your cutting machine too, some machines cut circles better than others. You may want to rotate the large circle until you feel like it's lining up nicely on all sides. Notice that with my own tests, I feel like the Cricut actually does a good job at cutting symmetrical circles. I didn't realize that that was a problem until I started working with circular shapes. So what we're going to do is just go ahead and put glue. You don't need a lot. Just put glue there, get a nice line, nice fat line that we can smear out along the edge. Okay, because we want to work that out to the edge. Okay, try not to get huge globs out to the edge because you don't want it to come popping out. And then I've got a little tip that I'll show you here in a second, just in case you didn't get all the clean seams. Okay, so just pop that right on there, and then use your finger to kind of run around the exterior here. Remember, this is the bottom, so no one's going to see it, but I still like to make things pretty. So do your best to get that nice and aligned. And just push down. It's pretty much impossible to hold down every single edge of a circle this size. So you may have some parts of it that aren't completely glued down. So what I'll do is I will grab just a scrap little piece of paper and I'll throw some glue on it. Grab my spatula. You may want to just grab a spatula for this kind of work in the future. But what I'll do is I will actually go in and like this part here where it didn't completely glue down, I'll actually just stick my spatula under there and rub it up against the top of that piece and then just push down and hold that in place until we get a nice clean seam. Okay, and you can kind of rub that glue off before it sets, and then you can see how nice that seam is. And even here, it didn't really hold very well. So this is going to take a little bit of finessing because it is such a large piece, but with the right tools and with the right techniques, you can get it perfect, just like the one in our photo, in our video. So you can see there how nice that seam is. Okay, so all that's left at this point is to put the top on. Okay, now that's the main piece there. And then you've got this piece here that's going to go on top. You want to make sure that you glue this on top of this blue piece and make sure that you have a nice even border around all of these pieces. So just like we did with the bottom, you get a nice line of glue there, and then maybe a fatter line around the outside to do the best that you can to get that seam really clean. Okay, and then just kind of use your finger to spread it out to the edge. If you don't want to do it that way, you can just use your glue bottle. I like this because it really gives me a nice flat layer of glue that won't come spilling out once I put that top piece on. And then you can always go in and clean it up using the little spatula method that I just showed you. Okay, so you can go ahead and get that down. Okay, just like that. And I actually have this piece upside down, but that's okay because it is a symmetrical piece, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so again, yours is gonna have this piece already glued on, but we also have these little support pieces here. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna fold them in, and you see these little tabs here. You're gonna go ahead and put just a little bit of glue on these tabs here. And that's a little too much. You're gonna tuck that in and then just push down, and that's gonna keep the inner circle there from caving in. So you're gonna repeat that process for all 4 of those, and your base is pretty much done. So we can go ahead and move on to the actual UFO itself, or flying saucer, whatever you want to call it. And here is the main structure, okay? And what we're gonna do is we're gonna begin by connecting all of these to create one long segment. And actually what I did before I connected them was I flipped them over and I put all of the vellum pieces on, okay? So let's take a look here. And you'll have vellum pieces for all of these, okay? So I'm not going to bore you with that, but there are specific vellum pieces for each of these little windows, and they're all cut in specific shapes. So find the rectangular piece for that, this shape for this window here, and then this shape for this window here. This little piece here, what we're gonna end up doing with this is just folding it over to create a sturdier bottom for our flying saucer. So what you're gonna do, and this is what I did, let me clean off my glue tip, starting to get caked from gluing things all day. I just sort of ran the glue kind of like this and just glue that down. It doesn't have to be precise. As long as you're not overlapping the score marks, it's totally fine. Okay, so you kind of do that for that piece there. And then do a little bit of glue for this area here. Put that window in place. And then that one there. And we used colored vellum for ours, but you're welcome to use whatever colors you want. You can make it clear. I think adding color would definitely jazz this piece up. Okay, so you're gonna repeat that on all of these windows. And while we're talking about the vellum, there's the top segment of the UFO also has a little window. You have this little square piece for that window there. Okay, so you want to just maybe just kind of create like a assembly line and just work on the vellum at this point. Okay, so get all your vellum on all of your pieces. Okay, so once you have your vellum in place, the rest of the assembly is pretty straightforward. If anything, it's just kind of repetitive. So what we're gonna do is we wanna fold everything at the score marks just to kind of get everything trained and moving in the right direction. Okay, so go ahead and fold everything, get all the little tabs folded, and get this thing prepared to take on its final shape before we start gluing everything together. Okay, now if you want to prevent any creasing of these pieces, I would suggest sort of using your table as leverage to do the bending of the tabs. On this piece here, there's a tiny little tab here. We're not even gonna put glue on that. So I wouldn't even try to really fold it too much because it's not gonna make that much of a difference. Okay, so go ahead and get all of your pieces folded, just like I have here. And then we'll go ahead and get this thing connected. And assembled. This isn't too bad. It's not very difficult. Okay, so I've got all of my pieces nice and bent and folded. I'm going to go ahead and connect these three structures together, and I'm going to put some glue on this large triangular tab here. Okay, I'm going to get that glue out to the edge there, and just kind of pop that right next to the other piece. Make sure that this bottom area is nice and aligned and flush. And just go ahead and pop that tab over, just like that. Okay. And we're going to repeat the same process with this guy here. Get that nice and aligned there at the bottom. And just push that over. Okay. And while we're at this point here, another thing you can go ahead and do, and remember, yours are going to have all of your vellum already in place. Okay. You can get these pieces bent up. Okay. And you're going to want to go ahead and glue this piece down here, like so. Okay, and just push and hold that down. Let me show you that on camera. We're just going to put glue right there. We're going to take this bottom piece and fold it over onto itself. Okay. And you can kind of use one hand to hold it down to allow the glue to set while you're putting glue on with your other hand, and then just kind of work your way down. Okay, so you're going to repeat that process until you've got all of these glued. Okay, now you don't want to do it with the last piece here until we get this whole thing connected. So I'll show you what I mean here in just a second, but we're just kind of working our way down the row. Get these pieces in place, and that's just going to create a more sturdy bottom to our saucer. Get a little bit more glue there. Okay, just hold those down as you go down the row. Again, yours is going to have all of the vellum already in place. I didn't want to do that because it's somewhat redundant. Okay, so you're actually going to be putting glue on top of the vellum, like that. Okay, now this last piece here, right here, we're not actually going to close that up until further into the process, because what we're going to do is we're going to connect this and then close that up. Okay, so anyway, at this point, we've got a really long strip here, and this is where the redundancy comes into place, but luckily we're only dealing with 2 tabs for the most part, and we're just going to go ahead and put glue on these tabs. And all of these are going to have panels on them, so if you don't do your best work, it will be somewhat forgiving. Just make sure that you get it at the correct angle. Okay, make sure that it's nice and flush with that little score mark there. And then do the same here. Should have a nice line here. Okay, and you're just going to repeat that process all the way down the row. Okay, so don't worry about putting glue on this little area here. That again is just kind of to prevent any light from seeping through, just to make it look more polished, but it's absolutely not necessary to put any glue on that little piece right there. Okay, so just going to go ahead and continue that same process down the row there. And if you get a little glue that pops out, just scrape it off. Again, we're going to be putting panels on this, so if you get a little bit of glue that smears out, it'll be nice and hidden when we're all done with it. Okay, so just go ahead and continue that process all the way down the row. Okay, so I'm getting kind of close here to the end, and just wanted to point out one thing here. This little tab here that I told you not to put any glue on, it's a little difficult to really score it, but if you want, and if this is giving you some trouble, you can go ahead and just kind of bend it a little bit. It doesn't need to be completely bent like you would normally bend something with a score mark. I noticed that for the most part, I could get away with not bending it at all, but because of the human error factor, there are some areas where I kind of did need it to hide away a little bit more, so I just kind of bent it a little bit, and that worked out fine for me. So we're just kind of continuing down the row here, and again, this is just kind of a very repetitive process, but as you go along, you're going to get better. Just make sure that you're not going over that little score area, that you're kind of just butting up against it. Okay, and that's going to ensure that you have a perfectly assembled piece there. And again, I think it was as I'm getting closer to the end of the assembly, I'm noticing that kind of bending that a little bit is actually helping the process go more smoothly. So again, we're just putting glue on our tabs here and just working our way around. Okay. And again, just you want to make sure that you're getting everything properly aligned at the correct angle. It does require that you stay pretty spot on with the angles in order for all of this to work correctly in the end. Otherwise, towards the end of the process, when you start putting panels on, there may be some slight discrepancies if you don't get things right when you're assembling the main structure. But that's going to happen because we're working with computer-generated 3D models and then building them with paper. So there's always going to be a little bit of human error involved, and that's why you guys shouldn't be hard on yourselves if things don't go together perfectly on your first attempt. But they can easily go together perfectly as long as you take your time and just be observant and focus on the task at hand. You know, watch the lines, make sure that the lines are all nicely matched up, and you really can't do it wrong. So I've got the whole thing pretty much assembled here. Okay, and again, yours is going to have all of the vellum in place, and we're just going to go ahead and connect the two ends together with these tabs here. I'm going to start with the big tab because that's going to give me plenty of surface area to ensure that I've got everything lined up precisely. Okay, so you see there, and you got to kind of do this in midair, so use your fingers as the leverage to get these pieces lined up and allow that glue to set before you move on. Okay, so it might help to kind of sandwich it between your fingers there. Okay, so that is a pretty good seam. It's slightly off, but that's what I love about the Scotch Quick Dry is even when it's almost set, you still have a little bit of time to kind of shimmy things around. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put glue on the remaining 3 tabs here. Okay, and you see how I kind of got too much glue there at the top. You can easily scrape that off. And again, we're going to have panels on this, so that's going to be covered up. And we can go ahead and finish joining the rest of these tabs together. Again, just make sure that you're following that angle as accurately as possible. Okay. It's a little awkward at this point, so maybe move up to the top. Since there's a nice giant hole at the top there, you can get your fingers in there, and then get that last middle tab here in place. Okay, so that looks great. Now remember this little section here that we didn't glue. We can go ahead and glue that now. So you can just go ahead and put a little bit more glue there. Went a little bit crazy on that. And just glue that down. Okay. So there's our basic structure. I think it came out pretty nice actually. And at this point, what we can go ahead and do is work on the second little structure, which is made up of these pieces here. Okay, a lot smaller, so it should go a lot quicker. And as we did with the first section, you want to go ahead and make sure that you fold everything at the score marks just to get that ready, because that's going to make the job a lot easier. Okay, so we're going to do that, and as I mentioned before, your vellum is already going to be in place. Okay, so you want to make sure that you've got your vellum glued down, and that is just going to make things prettier. I guess you could not put vellum on there, but it really takes away from the whole feel, especially if you're planning on getting one of those lights. And if you saw our trailer, when you put those lights in and you put it on that little shuffle mode, it really makes this thing super cool. Like the aliens are in there doing some kind of weird experiments or something. I think that's kind of like, for a kid, I think that's a really cool little added bonus to have that little light in there. Because typically, like I know like E.T., there's like lights on the spaceship, and it just makes it that much cooler. So I'm just going in and I'm just folding everything at the score marks just to get everything ready to go. And just like we did with the base of our UFO, we're going to join all these pieces using, well, we're just going to go ahead and glue this one tab to its neighboring piece. Okay, so just go ahead and put some glue on that tab there. Okay, and you can use your table to get that aligned. And just push that over. There we go. And you can actually fold it on itself here just to make sure that you've got it correctly aligned. And we're going to do the same thing with this piece here. So just go ahead and put glue on this tab. And get that aligned. And just push that down. Okay, I'm just going to flip it on itself. Make sure I've got that nice and aligned. Okay, great. So, it looks like I forgot to bend this one. Shame on me. Okay. So just like we did with that first piece, what we're going to do is we are going to connect these pieces together. Okay, so this tiny little tab here, I think you could probably get away with not putting glue on it, but I think since this piece is so tiny, it needs whatever support it can get, so I would recommend putting glue on it. You can try one or two without it, and if it doesn't work for you, you can go back and add the glue later. And then just move on to the next set of tabs, just like we did with the main structure. And this goes a lot faster because there's less surface area, so the glue is going to set a lot faster. Okay, so you see how I'm doing that. I'm just kind of connecting them, and you want to go ahead and continue that process all the way around until this thing's almost closed up, and then I'll meet back up with you when we go ahead and join the two ends together. Okay, so I've got this piece pretty much all put together here, and we're just going to go ahead and finish connecting both ends together. So the process isn't really that much different, but I did want to walk you through it. So we're just going to connect this, just make sure that we've got it in the right spot there. Okay. And then if we have to, since it may be a little difficult to get to these tabs, we can just go ahead and put glue on them from the inside. Okay. Come on, glue. And I got way too much glue on there. So I'm just gonna smear that off, and then just go ahead and get that connected. Okay. So there's the top portion of our flying saucer. And now before we do anything else, I want to grab this piece here, and you want to go ahead and fold everything at the score marks. You're going to take the center little triangles, little tabs, and point them up, and these outer ones you want to point down, just for now. Actually, yeah, that's fine. Okay, we're going to grab our little finial here, and you want to go ahead and just fold that at the score marks, and that's going to create the little pointy thing, or the finial. Here's your little tab, so you want to go ahead and put glue on that. And as always, try to get it out to the edge there, and glue that to the underside of its neighbor. And you can just use your fingers to get that glued. You can put it down on your table, and it's actually okay if you flatten it like that, just to make sure that you've got it perfectly assembled. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to pop this piece right on top there, and those teeth that are a part of this piece are going to hold that in place. So what I'm going to suggest you do is start with just one of these little tabs, and get that glued. Make sure it's nice and flush with that piece. Okay, and just hold that in place until it's nice and dry. Okay, and then we can go ahead and kind of tilt it back and put glue on the rest of these pieces. And then flip our finial over. We'll maybe start on the opposite side and hold that down for just a few seconds, and then just work your way around, getting that to hold. Okay. So that's pretty straightforward. You can go ahead and pull these out now. And what we're going to do is we're going to feed this through like so. Okay, and you want to align it like that. And we're going to glue that in place as well. So what I did was I took and I just started with one little tab here. Okay. And I stuck it through. Made sure that I'm aligning it with one of these little sections here, just to make sure that it's in the right spot, and then the rest of it will kind of fall into place. And again, all of this is actually going to be covered up with some panels, so if it doesn't look perfect, don't have to worry about it, because we're going to clean it all up. Okay, so now we can kind of fold that in. I'm going to go ahead and go to the opposite side. I'm going to put glue on that. And which one is it? There it is. And I'm just going to get that glued into place. Okay. And then once those two are in there, you could probably go ahead and do like 2 or 3 at a time. I'm going to go ahead and just do 2 at a time because I don't want to stress this piece out too much. Just kind of hold that in between both your fingers and get that nice and glued. Okay, so you can pretty much see where this is going. I'm going to do the next 3 here. Just putting glue on those tabs from the inside, flipping it over, and just watching my alignment from the exterior of this piece. And my fingers are kind of sticky right now, so they're actually pulling the paper away. I'll hold that in place a little bit longer this time. Okay. There we go. And then just go ahead and finish up by gluing the remainder of these tabs here. I have 5 left. So I'm just going to go ahead and put glue on all 5 of these. And just get those glued into place. And just be patient, making sure that you give the glue enough time to dry. Okay. And I've got 2 left here. And 1 left. Okay, so we have that in place. Now we can go ahead and flare these tabs out. And we're kind of going to do the same thing, but with the larger piece this time. Okay. So I'm going to take this guy and flip him upside down, and I'm going to poke this piece through. Okay, so that's what it should look like. Okay, and I'm going to begin by just gluing 1 tab down at a time. I'm going to do the first 2 just to get it anchored, and then flip it over and just make sure that you've got it nice and centered along with these lines here, that it's in the right spot. And just push down. You got to kind of do this in midair, sort of, because of that finial, which is okay. And then go over to the opposite side and put a little bit of glue on that tab there. Okay. And just push and hold that down. Okay. And at this point, you're just going to go around and glue the rest of them into place. Now this is, for my sake, holding together pretty well. So I'm just going to go ahead and move on to the panels. And the panels are pretty straightforward. Again, it's a little bit of a repetitive thing, but it's very simple. So you've got 12 of these, 12 of these, and then you have 12 of these. These panels here, you're going to go ahead and fold them at the score marks, and you're going to glue them to the side like this. Okay, so you're actually going to put glue all over this. We're not creating any sort of curve with this piece at all, and you're just going to glue that down. Just making sure that you're getting it flush with the bottom and also centered on this piece. Okay, and what I did was I used my table as leverage so that I can push down and get it on there really nicely. Okay, there you go. So you see how that looks. Got a little bit of glue sticking out of there, but that next tab is going to butt up against this really nicely. So if you do have a little bit of glue coming out, wouldn't worry too much about it. So you're going to repeat that process all the way around for all 12 sides. And then you're going to do the next section here. okay? And this is exactly the same color as the other one, okay? And there's no curve on this either, so we're just putting glue here and here, and just gluing that down, making sure that you've got it nice and centered. And you want to go ahead and make sure that it butts up against this panel here. Okay, just get that glued down. Okay, and then finally, we have these here. Now you'll notice that these pieces are a little bit different, and I have my texture side up. You'll see that some of them have this half circle on the right, some of them have them on the left. So you'll notice, and you do actually want to train this top portion to be curved, okay, because we're giving the top a little bit of a curved appearance, okay, and when we put this here, you want to make sure that you grab the correct one so that the hole matches up with that hole, okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to put glue here. Actually, you could probably just put the glue on this piece here so that you don't risk getting glue on those nicely added panels. So we'll put glue on that piece there and get that into place. Okay, like that. And then you're not actually going to put glue on the entire curved part. We're only going to put glue on the end of it. Okay, so give that a second to dry before you move on to that little end piece. And you can go ahead and flip this back a little bit. And what you want to do is just put a little bit of glue right on the end. Okay, make sure you get it out to the edge. Okay, and then try to maintain a little bit of a curve and just push and hold that down until it dries. Until it has a decent enough hold, I guess. Okay, all right, so that's what that should look like. And then again, you want to alternate these pieces because that little half circle, you want to make sure that it matches up with its neighbor. Okay, so you see how that works there. That piece is going to go here. Okay, and it is going to butt up like that. Okay, so you're just going to continue that process all the way around until you have all those panels on. And that's pretty much it. We have this cool little Thunderbolt thing. And what you do with this is you kind of just glue this orange piece to the red piece like that. And then what we did was we put them on both sides here. Got one like this and one on the other side. And that's pretty much it. So as you can see here, we also embellished with some rhinestones all over it. I've got some stickles on here. We've got our vellum in place. And the cool thing is, when you have your cupcakes in there, as long as you have the little spacemen pointing outward, they actually keep this thing in place nicely. Okay, and it actually centers very well as well. One other thing I do want to mention is with these picks, you want to kind of push them down and get them pretty close to the frosting. If they're up too high, it may actually prevent this thing from closing properly. So I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial. I know it was a little bit of work, but when all said and done, whatever child gets this, or even an adult, I'm sure they're going to love it. And if you do make one, I would love to see your version. Definitely post it on our Facebook page because that seems to be where all the action is these days. So I look forward to seeing your project. Thank you for spending your time with me, and I will see you next time.
Stay on top of all things Dreaming Tree and engage with us today. Get the latest news and enter in our giveaways on Facebook. Get inspired by following us on Pinterest. Be the first to see our new product launches on Instagram. Do you prefer Twitter? Yep, we're there too. Watch our beautiful product trailers and assembly tutorials on YouTube. For more information, visit www.3dsvg.com. Live, craft, love, and dream.